some of them are better than others in terms of being patient for milking. Some of them are a little impatient. But any questions so far?
Kids and grown-ups gather around a small herd of goats. They're from the city, and they're here to learn, to touch, to experience something different. 2 pot-bellied pigs burrow into a nest of straw, and dozens of chickens and ducks wander about, establishing their social order.
That's a barred rock rooster. He was supposed to be a hen. Every spring we bring in some day-old chicks, and if you ever read the fine print from the hatcheries, it'll say our sexing is only 90-something percentage accurate. Very handsome fellow, you'd have to admit. And actually what just happened, there was another rooster that wanted to get intimate with a hen, and he was kind of telling him, well, that's my hen, get away from her.
This is Cricklewood Farm, a hobby farm with a twist that's part of a growing trend. Hallie Cottenham paid a visit and joins me with that story. Good morning.
Good morning, Manna.
Well, first of all, who was that giving the rooster play-by-play?
That was Dale Horexy. He and his partner bought this farm about 3 years ago, and we met up in this old barn. It's 175 years old, and it was a pretty cold day when I was there. But inside, that dozen goats or so, that pair of pigs, and all those chickens and ducks warmed the air.
A bucolic scene. But what's the difference here about this hobby farm? What's the twist?
Well, it's part of a burgeoning agritourism industry. You've heard about the rising costs of hay and grain. A dozen milking goats doesn't add up to a dairy operation, so Dale is diversifying. Goat milk soap, goat milk fudge, goat milk cheese, and now workshops on how to milk goats and then turn the raw ingredient into something more. It costs $25, and you're encouraged to bring your own rubber boots, but you get to take home what you make.
Goat milk fudge. I'm not sure that's a strong pitch. I'm imagining, a cross between fudge and feta.
Well, we'll get to the taste test in a minute, Amanda, but let me take you back into that old painted red barn, back to Cricklewood Farm and the hopes and dreams of Dale Horexy. His mother comes from a farming background, but he was raised in Winnipeg, and after decades of city life, he felt this urge to move to the country. They bought the farm, started acquiring animals, and have been pouring money into it ever since.
And now is it time for this farm to start paying for itself?
Exactly. And Dale told me that he expects to make a profit for the first time this coming year. In the meantime, how have they been paying the bills?
My partner works off farm. He's got a real job, like an accountant type job, so that helps a lot. I work a couple nights a week as a waiter. So, when you're out in the country, a lot of people that are in the country that want to live the farm dream have our off-farm income is the term that they throw around. There's a transition from, a job to sustainable farm income.
So they've got the workshops, the soap, the fudge, and last year, Dale planted 15 acres of sunflowers, and soon they'll start selling cold-pressed sunflower oil as well.
And they gave you a hands-on demonstration.
That's right. That's right. I was there during milking time. Dale does it the old-fashioned way, by hand.
So when we go to milk, the first thing you want to do is clean the udders. Usually try to make sure this is fairly warm. So it's not too cold on her udder. So we're just spraying the udder. You notice I'm doing this. She's kind of lifting her legs a bit. So this is not a good sign. If she's doing that now, when I'm going to milk her, she's going to be even more antsy. Squeeze out a little bit of milk to clean out the teat. And you can see she's got a good volume too. It's just coming out. Some people come in thinking, oh, goat milk, that tastes like wet wool mitts. If you do a taste test between cow's milk and goat milk that's fresh, you really shouldn't taste any difference. The only thing you will notice, since this is full fat, your palate will detect the fat.
And by the way, I tasted the milk and the fudge. Tastes like regular milk and regular fudge.
Yes, I noticed he doesn't mix the sex up. Well, he mixes them up with the roosters and the hens, but not with the goats.
No.
The farm started out as a hobby, you were saying, and now it sounds an awful lot like work. Now, they're not making much money yet, so what does Dale get out of this?
Well, it is a lot of work. Dale has to draw water for the animals from the farmhouse. Turns out free-range eggs are sometimes hard to find, and those Nubian goats are kind of needy, but still.
No matter what a crappy day I might have had the day before, I'd get out of bed and have a cup of coffee and come out and do the chores. The animals are so happy to get out of the barn and so happy to see you. I mean, mostly it's because you're a source of food, but I tell myself they're happy to see me. But anyway, they're just almost therapeutic, and it's very calming and very soothing, I find. And it seems like most people that come here tend to agree, so we're happy to be able to share the experience with people coming to visit the farm.
And that piece about sharing is important to Dale, to offer people who are no longer connected to the food-growing world a way back in. Mm-hmm. He told me about an interview between Jamie Oliver and a group of kids.
They didn't know that ketchup came from tomatoes. They didn't know that French fries came from potatoes. Definitely it helps just to make it a little more real, so they see the milk coming out of the teat, and milk doesn't just come in the carton in the grocery store, just like chicken doesn't just come in the saran wrap in the grocery store.
Wow. So what's next for Dale and his small herd of goats, the pot-bellied pigs and all these fowl?
Well, Cricklewood Farm is part of this growing local food movement in Lanark County. It's a network of like-minded people with farm gate produce and products. They want to sell their homegrown wares, and they also want to sell the farm experience too.
A lot of the small farmers that are coming into the area, young couples that maybe grew up in the city, are seeing the agritourism as a important part of what they do. People are realizing that there's an interest in the local food, and parents are making an effort to take them away from their little gizmos and gadgets that they're constantly on, and just try to get them outside as well.
You can check out a website, Amanda. It's called lanarklocalflavor.ca to see dozens more small-scale producers like Dale, plenty of them organic, and many of them interactive, just like Cricklewood Farm.
Yeah, that sounded like fun for you, too.
It was a nice day. It was a really lovely day.
Yeah, and you have kids. Would you take them out there?
I absolutely would. I would. I'm wondering, though, whether those aggressive roosters might frighten them. I'm not sure. It's worth a try, though.
You know, I grew up on a dairy farm myself, and we're older when we grew up on this farm. We were 10 and 11, and we used to call the milk from the store the real milk, and the milk from the cows the fake milk.
You know, I was raised on a dairy farm as well, and when my father retired from it, we had to buy milk. I remember feeling how strange this was to actually see a carton or a bag of milk in my parents' fridge.
Thanks so much for this, Hallie. Dale Horetzi is co-owner of Cricklewood Farm. It's in Frankville, which is about an hour's drive southeast of Ottawa. Check out their webpage at cricklewoodfarm.com, and that's Cricklewood, Krickle, Wood Farm. Sounds like lots of fun for the kids.